Tonight, moving the mail,
You will never have our hearts, and you will never have our minds.
but delivering defiance.
Would always tell us, no, the computer doesn't make errors.
Can you really trust those checkout scanners? And Goldhawk fights the noise next door.
CTV News with Lloyd Robertson.
Good evening. Postal workers were back on the job today, carrying with them a lot of anger and resentment. They're not happy about being forced back to work by the federal government. Regular home delivery resumes tomorrow, and letter carriers will return to their roots. But the union keeps hinting some posties won't bother to check for proper postage, and some corporate mail may be deliberately sent astray. With more on the latest postal protests, CTV's Jennifer Fraser.
You can have the government legislate us back.
One final angry tirade.
And you'll have our bodies here. But you rest assured, sir, that you will never have our hearts, and you will never have our minds, and you will never
Halifax postal workers were among the first to go back to work. In Montreal, a half-joking suggestion that it's time to get the mail moving.
Allez, au travail! Le déterminisme au travail, monsieur!
And in Toronto, there was resignation.
Back to the time clock. Right? Everybody's trying to rebuild Christmas now.
Our first priority is now to get the mail moving so that we can meet the Christmas mailing requirements of all Canadians.
For many customers, like those who depend on direct mailing, it comes not a moment too soon.
We were about to mail 600,000 pieces out for donations. It's a $1.5 million program that's still sitting in a mail shop rather than being out in the mail. So we have felt the effects of the strike quite heavily.
And Canadians who want to donate to charitable organizations will get a new deadline to claim tax benefits.
I have asked the Ministry of Revenue and the Ministry of Finance if it was possible to extend the period until the end of January, and the period will be extended, Mr. Speaker.
And so the first postal strike in 6 years ends on a bitter note, with suggestions from the union that if things don't change, Canadians can expect a repeat performance in 3 years' time when the current deal runs out. Jennifer Fraser, CTV News, Toronto.
The Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce has become the latest of Canada's big banks to record a big profit this year. CIBC made $1.55 billion. That's up 16% from last year. All combined, the six major banks rang up a record $7.5 billion in profits this year, a jump of 18% from 1996. Price scanners are considered a common convenience at virtually every major department store in the country. But are they reliable? Well, the short answer is no. According to a Quebec consumer group, those scanners are costing consumers money. And as CTV's Rosemary Thompson reports, shoppers would be well advised to keep an especially close eye on the prices they're paying this holiday shopping season.
With 20 shopping days left until Christmas, you may be parting with more money than you bargained for. A Montreal consumer group investigated 5 major department stores and found errors with price scanners.
When there were errors, we went back and said, there's an error here, and they would always tell us, no, the computer doesn't make errors.
The group compared the price on the floor to the price at the cash register. In many cases, they didn't match. The worst case, the Bay.
It appears to be a pause because you'll always have the human error factor. But anybody, first thing, customers always right.
The error rate at the Bay was 26.7%. Zellers and Canadian Tire were tied at 17.3%.
We have to let